I think that Dr. Splittenberger said it best when he said that cross-accreditation would be the best way to handle this so that we all have access to finding and retrieving information for veterans in filling out our claims and doing our claims and seeing to it that they're properly developed. With that, I can say that AMVETS in the past year, 2010, served 103,867 vets. We filed claims at 466,913. Awarded claims was 5,486, which granted a total of 107,360,431 in the amount generated to the state. As of this year, for the first 6 months, we have done 86 million. So we plan on increasing that number this year. With that number and with that, that's basically all I have to say. We have 35 certified and accredited service officers throughout the state. Our ROs are run by former rating officers for the VA, and we plan on continuing to help and to back our service organizations all through the state, as well as our CVSOs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We've had a rather aggressive agenda, and I want to open this up. Anyone else wishes to comment? Yes, sir. Colonel? Tom? I know. Come on. I couldn't see your tie. I was blinded.
I'm Tom Richards, Colonel, Assemblyman Bratkins, other members. I'm the chairman of San Diego United Veterans Council. I'm the secretary of the State Commanders Veterans Council, and some other positions. But I'd like to make a few quick points. Our young veterans are, only 0.6% of the people of military age serve in the military. Now that 0.6% is drawn from the top 25%. 75% of the military age people don't qualify for the military. They're screened out physically, they don't pass the test, they're taking drugs, or they've been involved with the law, and so on. So my perspective is the top 25% are the people from which we draw those people, and those 0.6% that serve. Those are the adventuresome people. They're the risk takers, and they're the people that have demonstrated a willingness to serve us. I think we owe them something. We owe them more than the state of California is currently giving them. I would also like to suggest that those people are the prospective leaders of California, of the nation, of their communities, and of the volunteer organizations such as these. It's in our best interest to facilitate their success by making sure that they get the benefits they need, most especially employment. Now, right now, the veterans that are coming home are unemployed at nearly twice the rate of the people that didn't serve. I'd like to suggest to you that that's patently unfair. They put their lives on hold. They suffer the opportunity costs of going off to war, postponing their education, postponing a career, and then they come home and they can't find a job. It's my personal feeling that they should be at the head of the line and not at the back of the line, but we don't do that for them in California. I'd also like to suggest that California is looking at the CDVA and the CVSOs as a cost center rather than the revenue center that it really is. Strategically, if you look at it as a revenue center, it'll be better for the vets and it'll be better for the state of California from a fiscal standpoint. Another thing, I think I've heard a lot about the claims process, and I heard the VA say that they're trying to get the claims process down to 120 days. Well, there are two parts to the to getting benefits, disability benefits. The first is getting the claim approved. I know how this works because I recently, well, it's been 2 years, but I after 38 years, applied for disability for PTSD. The first part of the claims process took 6 months. That was getting a medical diagnosis that I do have PTSD. That's what they're trying to reduce, to get it down from 6 or 8 months down to 120 days. But what they don't talk about is once you have your diagnosis, it takes another 6 to 8 months for the VA to award you your disability. So it's over a year in many cases before you actually get your disability pay. VA doesn't talk about that, and you should know that that's the process. And furthermore, they don't, once they give you a diagnosis of a disability, they don't automatically start the disability, awarding your disability. You have to go back and start a new process. Yeah. So you get your disability, they send you the fact that you are disabled, and then you have to go in and fill out another application form to get the percent of disability, and there are more hearings. Okay. Now, we've talked some of them today. People have talked about people either not returning to the state or leaving the state, and I'd just like to state publicly that I am moving to Virginia. Wasn't really my idea, but my wife decided a long time ago, and we've been looking for 3 years for a place that we can afford to retire. My wife is taking me to Virginia now, partly because of the economy, but partly because California is not veteran-friendly. So I'm sorry to say that. I didn't want to go, but I'll be in Virginia by the end of the year. And I am proud to have served the veterans in this state for 13 years. It's been a wonderful experience. I've met a number of wonderful people, like people at this table. But there will be more of that if you don't help the veterans in California. More people who provide leadership, who pay taxes, and so on in the state of California. That concludes my testimony. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you very much for presenting it. Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Chris Bingham, United States Air Force, retired, although Marine Corps trained as a naval aviator. I'm a Sonoma County Veteran Service Officer, and I'd like to add a few comments to some of the testimony that was delivered today. Touch on a few items. Anyone can file a claim with the VA. It's easy. You can do it online. You can get the forms. Very few people can do it right. I have 3 lawyers as clients because they don't want to deal with areas that are outside their expertise. Obviously, they're well versed in the law, but VA law is a whole different animal. Veterans are often the worst source of advice for veterans benefits. Most veterans don't know what they don't know. And that's what we have to deal with on a daily basis in our office, is to properly address the myriad of benefits that are available. With that being said, I'd like to highlight a project that we're working on in Sonoma County. It's called Sonoma County Vet Connect. It's a consortium of our office, a group of homeless veterans who had trouble finding benefits, and they wanted to create sort of a trail of breadcrumbs so that their followers could help get themselves benefits. That, along with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs community-based outpatient clinic, we've got Sonoma County Mental Health, we've got other community-based organizations. We all gather once a week at the Santa Rosa Veterans Memorial Building to do homeless veteran outreach. Many of them can't get to our offices or to get to facilities, so we try to bring everything in one place at one time for them. And we get them enrolled in VA medical, we get their claims process started, we get them involved with EDD, we get them involved with welfare and other local state benefits. And it works pretty well. The organization is comprised of veteran volunteers. These veterans are not service providers. They are people that are doing outreach. They're going to the homeless shelters. They're beating the bushes and under the bridges to get these veterans in, people that are afraid of, fundamentally, of getting into the system. And it's an effective model. It's working well, although it's only a marginal increase in the people that we serve. So they're seeing about 30 people a week, maybe 12 new people each week. My office is seeing 8 to 10 of them to start claims or initiate that process. It's working together as a community to make things happen. The fact that we have veteran volunteers doing the outreach, they're leveraging our abilities to just basically see the clients and do what we do best to provide our core services so that we're not having to do the outreach. And it's working well. But training is paramount to these veteran volunteers. Veterans' benefits are complex. We have to let them know the basics of what the benefits are so that they can properly shepherd people through this process. And right now I'm training their triage team, and we're doing 2 hours a week, and it's probably going to take 3 months to get them through so they have a rudimentary knowledge of all the benefits that are available to veterans so they can properly help them, at least point them in the right direction. We can only support this for about 3 hours a week from my office staff. We are so busy and we have so few people available to serve veterans that we take this training out of Hyde and we take the outreach out of Hyde. But it's important to do because these are some of our most vulnerable population and the people that need the services the most. Additional funding would allow us to support this sort of outreach and greater outreach in the community. Sonoma County has 34,000 veterans. 5,500 of them are enrolled in VA healthcare. Many more are eligible. About 3,500 are receiving compensation or pension benefits. Many more are eligible. We see new people every day that said, I didn't know I was eligible. And it's unconscionable that we as a society do not have outreach to these people so that we can properly educate them so that they don't become a burden on their families or less of a burden on their families and society. Because getting old is expensive, and when you look at the dementia and the people needing care, there are a myriad of benefits through the VA that can help take that. And these benefits take the burden off of state and local governments because they are providing federal funds to cover some of these costs. Since 2008, my office has seen a 71% increase in the number of people coming through the door. We had excess capacity back then. We do not have it now. We've had a cutback of a senior office assistant, so we have no clerical support whatsoever in a very paperwork-intensive operation. We've had an increase in 30.
I'm going to have to cut you off because we still have a couple more.
I understand. Okay. I did want to address very briefly the discussion about the backlog and Vice Chairman Pan's question about the delays. Fundamentally, my personal opinion is this VA process is an evidentiary process. If you don't connect the dots evidentiary, the VA can't grant the claim. So the VA has to give the veteran due process. That due process, allowing them to respond to it, is a great delay, and ultimately it cascades and creates a backlog. So our value added is helping them get the evidence and build that case. And that's the ultimate way to reduce the backlog and reduce the delay, is to provide more support to file the claims. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Hugh Crooks. I am the commander of the American Legion, Department of California. A little background about the American Legion. We are the largest veteran organization in the United States. In California, I have approximately 600 posts divided by 30 districts. That means I have approximately 100,000 veterans in the state of California. That's not counting their wives, not counting auxiliary. I really had not planned on speaking today because you heard all the numbers. I just want to make sure you understand that, yes, we understand that the state has problems. We, the service organizations, have problems. Our budget, our last budget, was severely on the cut. My VA&R program, which is our state veteran service officers, have been reduced by almost 20%. What I want to really press is the fact that if you have any influence, every dollar you spend, every dollar that you put up to have veteran service officers increases, that money comes back to the state of California. It doesn't come back to us, the veteran service organizations. Every money you spend for a veteran service officer, it comes back to the state of California. They buy products here. They spend money here. That comes back to the state's coffers, not to us. And I feel that's unfair at this point. What the state has done is put a lot of that burden on the veteran service organizations. You know, all of us work together, and you see, every single organization in here, we don't have any infighting. We're all doing the same job for the veterans. And that is so that we can make sure these are the people, as you've heard it a million times today, those are the ones that went out there and wrote that blank check. And now the government, although be it the state of California, doesn't want to acknowledge that. And I implore upon you to please, we need the funding for those veteran service officers. That in itself is enough to, it's not going to clear up the backlog of the VA, but you know what? We will be able to process even more. And as you see, the ones that we process, when they do get those claims filled, where's that money coming to? Like I said, it's not coming back to us. It's not coming to the VSOs. It's coming back to the state of California. And that's where that money is being spent. And it helps our economy here. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. How are you?
Yes, sir. I'm mighty honored to be here. Mr. Cook, I've followed you for many years.
Uh-oh.
And I appreciate all you've done for us veterans and also your board members here.
Thank you.
I served in the United States Air Force during the Korean conflict. I've been a veteran since 1958, and I'm a California veteran. And during that time, I raised 5 children, 16 grandchildren, and I presently have 9 great-grandchildren. And they're all started from me. I went to school on a GI Bill. I bought 2 homes under the CalVet. I'm one of the fortunate veterans. I don't need the services of the VA medically at this time of my life. And I just support every one of these. I belong to all these veterans organizations. I completely agree with what Commander Bobby Price had to say from the VFW. I'm a lifetime member of the VFW. I agree with what Scott McKee had to say for the American Legion and also the commander. I'm a lifetime member of the American Legion. And I agree with what Mel Posey said for AMVETS. I'm also a lifetime member of AMVETS, besides a member of the Marine Corps League as an associate and the Veterans of America. I've been working with veterans for now 10 years. And I'm like a conduit between the County Veteran Service Office and the County Veteran Service officers that represent the different veterans organizations. I see all the great work they do. I've also gone to our County Board of Supervisors and pleaded with them not to cut the budgets to the County Veteran Service Office because they're the lifeblood for our veterans. I've sent tons of veterans to them, and they received the benefits which they had no idea they were supposed to get. And I just love this state. I never want to retire outside of it. I was born and raised here, and I appreciate all you're doing, and I certainly hope that you don't have to cut our budget. I'm in full accord. When it costs these counties $1, like in your one legislation you had for it, and they get a return of $100 on it, that's a no-brainer. There should never be any veterans benefits cut in this state. And I thank you for all you do.
Thank you very much for presenting. Dr. Pan, closing comments?
Well, I really do appreciate the testimony that's come before this committee. You know, I guess one of the things that I have to admit, I'm not a vet myself, but I had the opportunity in my previous life as a pediatrician. Actually, I ran the training program for pediatrics at UC Davis, and we had actually when Travis still had a pediatric program, we had the pediatric residents spend time with us, and now actually we still have the family physician residents. And so I decided to go travel to Travis Air Force Base and get a good tour there to have a better understanding of the military culture and where our trainees were coming from, so we could better work with them and be sure we provide them the appropriate educational experience. And both that and my previous experience living in the Hampton Roads area, where there's a lot of, again, both vets and military personnel in that area, has always impressed me with the tremendous bonds of community that exist in both the military and the veterans community. And certainly I think that's evident by the strength of the veterans organizations that are present. And to a certain extent, perhaps we're a little overly reliant on all of you, that your good work, your volunteerism, the tremendous efforts that we need to step up as a state and as a federal government in terms of trying to provide more resources. And I think that we do have tremendous challenges. Admittedly, the state budget has shrunk, and I think that, personally, I think we need to look at, not that we can't find more efficiencies in what we're currently spending, but we do need to find more revenues to support these these public goods. All of you have sacrificed for our country. You have put not only, not just dollars, but your lives on the line, and I think we need to ask people to step up and, if nothing else, put at least a few more dollars into the till so we can try to help support all of you who have put your lives on the line for our country and are continuing to contribute to our wonderful communities. And certainly that's something that I want to try to work with all of you on, and try to, again, try to be sure we can get more support for the communities. County Service Veterans officers and other people, and try to be sure we're doing our share to provide the kind of resources you need, not just depend on your good offices and your time to try to provide sure that vets get the kind of services and access to the benefits they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. Assemblymember Atkins.
Well, just very quickly, I want to thank everybody for your comments today. Also, as someone who didn't serve in the military, but my entire family did, so I feel a particular responsibility based on family service that I should always try to learn more and more about the challenges facing our service members. And in light, certainly, of many of you may know, we adjourned in memory on a Monday of a number of active duty military personnel who were killed in the line of duty. And in San Diego, since there are a number of San Diegans here, we had a police officer who had just returned from his third tour in February, and as a San Diego police officer lost his life on the streets of San Diego. I think one of the challenges that we have that we need to constantly strive for is how to integrate things better. And I totally agree with Colonel Cook that we need to see fiscal impacts of legislation, because as we've been in appropriations this week trying to make our case for certain pieces of legislation, it seems that there's no recognition given for when you invest this money here, what comes back to you from the federal government. It's what we're trying to do with the homeless vets in San Diego. As many as we can find and hook into services, number one, we're doing the right thing by service members, but number two, we're effectively using resources that should be coming into our communities already as taxpayers. We should be bringing that money back. So I echo the comments of Dr. Pan, who talked about why we need to do these sorts of things, that we need to really hone down and try to find efficiencies and effective ways to bring the services back. I will continue to try to work. Colonel Cook has been an absolute defender of trying to make sure these funds stay in place. And immediately had legislation to try to replace it, and we'll continue to try to support that. I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn more and more, because as we look at all of the organizations doing great work, the VA is doing great work. But when Tom mentions, it was one of the questions I thought to ask, but I felt like I'd already taken up enough time, which is when you go through the process of applying for disability, you get the approval that you have been approved. I wanted to ask, how do you get the percentage of disability towards yourself? I mean, when do you learn that piece of it, and what's the methodology for that? because I think so I still have lots of questions. I will just end by saying thank you. This is going to be a process. I think Dr. Pan and I, if we can just become half the advocate for veterans that Colonel Cook has been as we continue to serve here, we'll feel pretty lucky. And we thank you for continuing any of these hearings you put together. We will be at, because I really feel like I have a lot to learn in order to try to be more helpful to the service members and to our veterans. So.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to wrap it up. But first of all, I do want to, this is the best committee there is. Why? It's bipartisan. It's not about Democrat or Republican, or you don't come in and say, how many Dems do we have or how many Republicans? Hey, it's here to help veterans. And, I always say if we could carry over that philosophy into a lot of the other things, how much could we get done? Now, we got some problems, as we know, and that's why, we're interested in, cost-benefit analysis on this. We all think that we have a great argument on this, bringing the money back and looking out. Finance, I wish we could have gotten some super glue and had somebody from finance and put them in that chair, and then they couldn't go until the hearing was over. But that didn't happen, and we will continue to fight. But I tell you, we have some champions here for you. We have some major, major problems, and that is at the federal level, trying to, this very, very convoluted mess, trying to interpret that so the veterans can find out what's going on. Homeless people, the problems with alcohol, drug, this is what we can, in the past, veterans, it's like, oh, we didn't have these problems. And now finally we're admitting to this, and we're trying to deal with this through your help. The amount of volunteer hours that are in here and above and beyond the call of duty for everybody that's in there, I can't thank you enough. The battle continues, and we're going to have more hearings on this. The goal, I think, is, you heard a lot of different things about getting everybody on the same sheet of music all together. I hate acronyms, but the one acronym I will use over and over again is the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. When you've got these things here that no one can understand, are you really, really helping the veterans, or are you just making it so complicated that no one can understand it and you can't get through the process? So, I think this was, I can't thank you enough for being here. It was long, but I think it was very, very fruitful. The battle continues, and we're going to keep going up that hill. So thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.